After years of being told raises aren't in the budget, she fired me for being ungrateful. What she couldn't have predicted was what I'd been quietly building every Monday morning while she sipped her coffee in her corner office. By the time she discovered it, it was already too late. But the real shock came when she learned who had been helping me all along. My name is Oliver Reynolds. I'm 42 years old, and until that Tuesday morning, I was the operations manager for Royal Heritage Hotel's East Coast Division. For 8 years, I'd been the backbone of our luxury hotel chain, managing everything from guest services to staff coordination across 12 properties that catered to the wealthiest clientele on the Eastern Seaboard. "Oliver, after 8 years, we're eliminating your position," Victoria Ashford said, her voice ice cold as she delivered the final blow. "Budget constraints, you understand." I sat across from her mahogany desk, watching her manicured fingers drum against my termination papers. "I understand completely," I replied calmly. "Frankly," she continued, "your attitude about compensation has been ungrateful. This is a privilege, not an entitlement." The word ungrateful hung in the air like expensive perfume. This was the same woman who'd denied every raise request for 8 years with the same budget excuses, now calling me ungrateful for wanting fair compensation. What Victoria didn't know was that every Monday morning at 6:47 a.m., while she sipped her coffee and arrived at 7 o'clock sharp, I'd been building something that would soon make her regret those words. Something that would cost Royal Heritage millions and destroy her career in the process. 8 years earlier, Royal Heritage had hired me to manage their East Coast luxury hotel operations. 12 properties, millions in revenue, and guests who expected nothing less than perfection. I delivered it consistently, increasing satisfaction scores by 23% in my first year alone while reducing operational costs by $180,000. When Victoria became my supervisor 3 years ago, everything changed. My first raise request was met with talk about volatile tourism markets and the need for conservative spending. The second year brought budget constraints and promises of future considerations. By year 6, I'd stopped asking for raises and started preparing for something else entirely. Those 13 precious minutes every Monday morning became my secret weapon. While Victoria remained oblivious in her corner office upstairs, I was accessing our guest management system and building something extraordinary. A comprehensive database of VIP client preferences that went far beyond standard hotel records. This wasn't just noting room preferences or dietary restrictions. I was documenting the kind of personal details that transform transactions into relationships. The Whitmore family spent $2.3 million annually with us, hosting corporate events, family gatherings, and anniversary celebrations. I knew that Mr. Whitmore's mother had Alzheimer's, and that any event needed careful scheduling with that in mind. His wife was gluten intolerant but too polite to mention it unless specifically asked. Their teenage son was diabetic, requiring discreet sugar-free options without making a production of it. Mrs. Blackwood, our pharmaceutical heiress, had standing reservations every third Thursday, but only at properties serving her deceased husband's favorite scotch. Mr. Harrison from the tech company always requested the same suite, but only if his estranged daughter wasn't staying in the city, a pattern I'd discovered through months of careful observation of his booking behaviors and occasional last-minute cancellations. These weren't just service notes. They were the foundation of genuine relationships that generated millions in repeat business. But I wasn't working alone in building this intelligence network. Ember Anderson, Victoria's assistant and our reservations manager, had been watching my approach to guest relations with growing interest. While Victoria treated Ember like an advanced piece of office equipment, I recognized her brilliance. She spoke 5 languages fluently, had photographic memory for guest preferences, and could coordinate complex events with military precision. The partnership began 6 months after Victoria's promotion when Ember quietly approached my desk one evening. The Morrison wedding was approaching, and she'd noticed that the bride's father had mobility issues that the family was too proud to address directly. Ember suggested moving them to room 1247, which had better wheelchair access without making the accommodation obvious. This small gesture revealed that we shared the same philosophy about genuine hospitality, anticipating needs before they were expressed. That was the beginning of our unofficial alliance. Over 2 years, Ember became my inside source for critical intelligence. She attended Victoria's meetings, reviewed sensitive correspondence, and handled VIP communications. More importantly, she was equally frustrated with Victoria's management style, taking credit for every success while blaming subordinates for any failures. Ember began forwarding me information that proved invaluable. Upcoming corporate events before they were announced, guest complaints before they reached Victoria's desk, and competitor offers targeting our most valuable clients. My Monday morning database grew into detailed profiles of over 200 VIP guests, their spending patterns, family dynamics, and the specific touches that maintained their fierce loyalty to our properties. 3 weeks before my termination, I received an unexpected call from James Morrison, Director of Operations at Grandmont Estates, our biggest competitor in the luxury hospitality market. They were expanding their East Coast operations and needed someone who understood high-end hospitality at the level I'd demonstrated at Royal Heritage. The salary offer was staggering, 60% higher than my current compensation. But more intriguingly, they weren't just hiring my operational skills. They wanted my guest relationships, the personal connections I'd cultivated over 8 years of exceptional service. When Victoria called me ungrateful that Tuesday morning, sitting in her office surrounded by the luxury I'd helped create, the decision crystallized instantly. I signed the termination papers without argument, thanked her for making the choice easy, and called James Morrison before I'd even reached the lobby. "I accept your offer," I told him. "When do I start?" "Next Monday. And Oliver, bring your guest list." Ember met me for coffee that afternoon, her face hardening when I described the termination meeting. "Budget constraints?" she asked incredulously. "Oliver, she approved $50,000 for lobby furniture yesterday. Your salary was too expensive, but decorative chairs were essential?" I leaned forward. "Ember, I have a proposition for you." "I'm listening." "Grandmont Estates wants to create a Director of Guest Relations position. 40% salary increase, full benefits, and you'd work directly with VIP clients instead of being someone's assistant." Her eyes lit up. "When do I start?" That weekend, I spent 48 hours transferring 8 years of guest intelligence into Grandmont's CRM system. Every preference, every personal detail, every family dynamic that made our VIP guests feel genuinely valued was now available at my new employer, ready to revolutionize their approach to luxury hospitality. Monday morning arrived, but instead of my clandestine 6:47 a.m. arrival at Royal Heritage, I walked into Grandmont's gleaming Manhattan property at 7 o'clock a.m. sharp, ready to demonstrate what genuine customer relationships could accomplish when properly supported and valued. The phone calls began immediately. Mr. Whitmore was intrigued when I mentioned that Grandmont's new executive chef could prepare a private gluten-free dinner for his wife's upcoming birthday, complete with discreet sugar-free dessert options for their son. After 8 years of generic service at Royal Heritage, someone finally remembered the details that actually mattered to his family. Mrs. Blackwood was thrilled about our recent acquisition of a rare 1967 Macallan, her late husband's favorite scotch that Royal Heritage had never bothered to stock despite her obvious sentimental attachment. Mr. Harrison appreciated our penthouse suite's separate private entrances, providing the discretion he valued for family reasons that Victoria had never cared to understand. By the end of my first week at Grandmont, I'd contacted 43 VIP guests from my carefully maintained database. 37 of them scheduled meetings to discuss transferring their business, intrigued by the level of personalized attention I was describing. This wasn't just about offering better rates. Anyone could compete on price. This was about demonstrating that I understood them as individuals with unique needs, preferences, and family situations that went far beyond standard hospitality protocols. The Morrison family provided the perfect example. Their younger daughter was getting married in the fall, and they'd automatically assumed they'd use Royal Heritage again, just as they had for the older daughter's wedding 6 months earlier. But when they toured Grandmont's accessibility features, the dedicated bridal suite with natural lighting perfect for photography, and the private garden space that could accommodate elderly relatives, they canceled their $73,000 Royal Heritage booking the same day. Victoria's first desperate call came Thursday of week 3. Her voicemail mentioned misunderstandings about my departure and potential consultancy opportunities. The second call Friday referenced possible errors in restructuring my position. By Monday of the following week, Royal Heritage had lost 8 major bookings to competitors, though Victoria didn't yet understand the pattern. When I finally answered Victoria's desperate Tuesday call, her voice cracked with barely controlled panic. "Oliver, whatever Grandmont is paying you, we can match it, exceed it significantly." "I appreciate the offer, Victoria, but I'm very happy in my new position." "This is business, Oliver. You're damaging relationships you helped build at Royal Heritage." "They trusted me, Victoria, not Royal Heritage, not you, me. And now they're following that trust to somewhere it's appreciated." Her voice turned sharp. "This is industrial espionage." I laughed quietly. "Victoria, I never signed a non-compete agreement. I simply remembered what our guests told me about their preferences, information they gave me freely in conversation over 8 years of building genuine relationships." After a long silence, she whispered, "What will it take?" "Nothing, Victoria. There's nothing Royal Heritage can offer me that I don't already have." What Victoria didn't realize was that my success at Grandmont was accelerating beyond her worst nightmares. The ripple effect of losing key clients was creating a cascade of cancellations that threatened the foundation of Royal Heritage's business model. Hotels operate on reputation and word-of-mouth recommendations among wealthy clientele, and when the Whitmore family publicly praised Grandmont's personalized service at their anniversary celebration, other affluent families took immediate notice. The investigation into potential employee misconduct became more serious when Royal Heritage's parent company hired external auditors to review operational procedures. They discovered that Victoria had been systematically cutting corners on guest services while inflating performance reports to corporate headquarters. The complimentary champagne for VIP arrivals had been downgraded to Prosecco. Fresh flower arrangements in premium suites were replaced with artificial ones. The 24-hour concierge service had been quietly reduced to business hours only. These cost-cutting measures had saved Royal Heritage approximately $180,000 annually, but they'd eroded the luxury experience that justified premium pricing. Guests were paying 5-star rates for diminishing 4-star service, and they were finally beginning to notice the difference. The final blow came when the Whitmore account departed entirely. Not just their personal events, but the $3.7 million in annual corporate business that Mr. Whitmore influenced through his company's executive retreats and client entertainment. His recommendation carried weight in circles where Royal Heritage had previously been considered the gold standard. Victoria's final call was different, defeated, hollow. "You win, Oliver." "This wasn't about winning, Victoria." "Then what was it about?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "It was about being valued, about having your contributions recognized, about working somewhere that understands the difference between cost-cutting and value creation." "The board is reviewing my position," she said quietly. "I'm sorry it came to this." "Are you really?" "No," I admitted. "But I'm not celebrating either. This didn't have to happen this way, Victoria. You could have said yes any of the 8 times I asked for a raise." 6 months later, Royal Heritage's East Coast division was completely restructured. Victoria was offered a position at their West Coast properties, essentially a demotion that would require relocating her family across the country. She declined and left the company entirely. Ember thrived as Director of Guest Relations at Grandmont, implementing comprehensive guest profiling and relationship management systems that transformed one-time visitors into lifelong clients. Grandmont promoted me to Regional Director after 6 months, tripling my former Royal Heritage salary. The irony was perfect and complete. Victoria's attempt to save money by eliminating my position had cost Royal Heritage millions in lost revenue. Her refusal to invest in employee retention had destroyed institutional knowledge that had taken years to build and could never be fully replaced. Victoria eventually found work with a smaller Phoenix hotel chain, a significant step down in prestige and salary, but perhaps an opportunity for a fresh start somewhere. Her reputation hadn't preceded her. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply proving that what they called expendable was actually irreplaceable. The hotel industry is built on relationships, not spreadsheets. Victoria had learned this lesson too late, in the most expensive way possible. Her focus on quarterly numbers had blinded her to the human connections that actually drove long-term profitability. My former colleagues at Royal Heritage later confided that the company had hired 3 consulting firms to analyze their client retention failures. Each report reached the same conclusion. Luxury hospitality succeeds through personalized relationships, not operational efficiency. The recommendations all pointed toward exactly the approach I'd been implementing for years, and had been denied resources to expand.